Hello, guys. Let's get that audio check out the way real quick. We'll turn that off. Get it really quiet in here. We have a special guest today by much request, so you guys can stop emailing me, stop blowing up my ex, stop blowing up my Facebook groups, because he's here. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Hearts Main. The only announcement is what you already know. The launch of the social media platform Archaix Underground is a complete success. People from all over the world are engaging. It is really profound what's going on in there. Sharing, networking, resources. It is the communication is just off the charts. I can't even keep up with it. It's only been 72 hours. So we're fast approaching 2,000 members. Probably going to double that within 2 or 3 weeks. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. We also have new pages being added today. New subject matter. So, for those of you who don't know, Mark Passio, independent researcher. He's been a radio talk show host. I know he's done some public speaking, at least on his YouTube channel. There are a lot of examples of him speaking before crowds. He's a really unique guy, and some of you have been pretty humored by the fact that when I go on my tirades and I go on my rants, you have often told me, man, you're starting to sound like Mark Passio. So I now know who he is. So I've been all over his channel, and I'm pretty impressed. I've pulled out some quotes. So without further ado, I'm not going to run my mouth. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Passio to the Archaix family. How you doing, sir?
Doing well today, Jason. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
Oh yeah, it was inevitable. I can't ignore my community. They get on my nerves. I've released too many emails, and they use every single one of them. Yeah,
I know
man.
how that could be.
So going through your channel this morning, and I noticed that you mentioned 4 greats, and it really shocked me. I says, "Wow," because of the 4 names that you mentioned of people that deeply profounded your own development in your early years. You mentioned David Icke, and although I've never spoke to the man, he did cite me in one of his published books, but we don't have a lot of crossover as far as our as personal, but our communities, there's a lot of crossover. Just like there's a lot of crossover with my community and yours. But
Yes.
David Icke woke me up too, and so did Michael Desarion. And I even feature him on my channel. He's only one of the 3 channels. You mentioned Jordan Maxwell, which I have a personal history with through my publisher, and Terrence McKenna. You mentioned him, and I'm like, wow, man, it's you might be halfway towards simulation theory, man. We might make something out of you yet. So, yeah, man, just introduce yourself to my community, and I know you've been doing this a long time, man, a lot longer than I am. So,
Sure. I've been at this for about 18 years now, going on thereabouts. I started, I guess, back in like 2007, basically just doing some public speaking in a personal capacity. Really, I was back then just speaking in people's homes and trying to get like little gigs in like libraries and things like that. And it basically morphed into me being a radio talk show host. I got on some early internet talk show stations, and that's where my show started growing. I made a website called whatonearthishappening.com. All of my material from the very first days of me doing this is all up there for free. So if people want to go back and look at the history of my work, it's all up on that website, whatonearthishappening.com. I started a podcast that has gone on up through about 2024. I'm taking an extended break from the podcast right now. I've been exploring some other areas, which involves basically trying to teach other content creators at this point how to do this type of work. So I teach the technical aspects of it and teach some of the, behind the scenes aspects of it, equipment, hardware, software, all of that in a seminar called How to Become the True Media. So I expanded into basically what you might call tutoring of aspiring content creators that want to get into talking about this type of material. And I've helped organize conferences over the years. I started the Free Your Mind conference, was the main organizer of that for 2 years, spoke at it 4 times. And I've just given seminars over the years as well, in person and online. I'm getting ready to deliver what I would consider to be one of my most important seminars that I've ever constructed, which is called the Shadow Work Seminar. That's coming up on November 22nd of this year. That's going to be hosted online on the Telegram platform. So I've been feverishly and frantically building my slides for that. Basically, that's what's been taking up the bulk of my time right now, currently, and just really looking forward to that one coming up, because I think that work is going to speak to the most direct internal spiritual work that we must do if we're going to truly ever become a free species. A lot of people will, comment and say that they like my earlier work as opposed to my later work. And I always tell people who say that they don't really understand my work, because if you just want to go to my early work, you're going to hear me expose the control system. That was my main focus in the early part of my broadcasting and teaching career. Was to explain to people the mechanisms of control at work in our world, mind control techniques, symbolism, exploring occultism, understanding how occultism is very deep psychology that goes to work in a hidden capacity upon the human species by practitioners who most people will never know, never meet, never even know their names. And this is an ancient game of total psychological control that has been being played on humanity since we've existed as a species, pretty much. And people loved that element of my work. They want it. They want that information. They want to explore it. They hang on that like it's like a new television episode coming out every week. But my work eventually, as I continued over the years and decades, moved more and more toward how we ourselves have to change, how we have to change our thinking, our belief systems, how we have to come into alignment with objective reality, how we have to come into alignment with objective morality. And I'll get into that as the interview progresses. But basically what happened is I started really putting the burden of change upon the people who are saying that they want change, but I feel they don't have accurate enough understanding, accurate enough willpower developed, accurate enough care to change their own thoughts, to change their own behaviors. And they're sort of just sitting back on the sidelines watching things as if this is some sort of infotainment, when in fact this is a spiritual war that requires deep commitment and deep involvement. That
I agree. You're
yeah,
describing people who have an empty toolbox.
unfortunately, that is the case. They haven't developed themselves to the point where they are actually putting skin in the game in this war. They're sort of leaving it up to people who they consider to be the experts, or the originals in these fields, and not understanding that this is not going to require only a few people. We need a huge chorus of voices. We need as many people speaking the truth out into the world as there are people trying to deceive people. And look at how many people actively do that for a paycheck every day in the mainstream media and the main forms of the press. It's just colossal how many people will speak the lie to people every day, as long as they're getting paid to do it. How many people are really putting a voice of truth out there for people to learn and be edified by, and to grow from. And when I place that burden upon the people in my audience, they tend to say they don't like that. And I've done it in fairly harsh ways over the years, where it started not so harsh. But when I feel that the message is not really being listened to, I cranked up the volume and the intensity tremendously. And you could see that if you watch my podcasts, where I make no bones about that. My personality has basically become pretty intense and harsh over the years, because I find that my own viewership, let alone people who haven't studied this information, quite frankly, are not listening that intently, and certainly are not getting involved to the extent that they need to.
So you referenced how intense you can be. So now that I've gone through your material late last night and early this morning, let me give my community an example of what I found in one of your videos. You'll
Sure.
know which video this comes out of.
Okay.
But I went through about 6 of them at different time periods. And this is Mark Passio, and it's a direct quote with some paraphrasing. I'm not changing a word. All I'm doing is eliminating some of the heavier words. But you guys know I'm famous for my rants and my tangents, especially my van rants. But I don't know if I can compete with this one. He says, "You're not playing to win. You're playing to lose. You don't know the tactics that are being used against you. You don't understand the real methods of mind control. You're attached to your distorted thoughts and your bullshit religions, and you're going deeper and deeper into chains, bondage, and slavery, and that's exactly what you guys deserve. None of your lives deserve to improve because you've sat on your lazy ass, you haven't spoken out, you haven't put any skin in the game, you've basically done nothing, and you've wished for a world to change. You keep swallowing that nonsense religion. It's just a new version of that old religion. Stand down psyop to get you to do absolutely nothing." Nice, man.
Awesome.
Nice rant. Nice rant. I can't deliver it with the passion you did, but yeah, it's nice rant.
It's anger that comes from a place of really desiring to see positive change and justice, and that's righteous indignation.
Right.
So I'm trying to inspire people to get up off the sidelines, to get up off the bench, to come out of the dugout, get on the playing field, and actually do something. It's action that's going to change things, not good intentions, not even just knowledge. Knowledge is just a means to getting onto the battlefield and actually changing things. Knowledge is what should drive us. Knowledge and care is what should drive us to right action in the world. And that's what I'm ultimately trying to inspire. The issue has really been that people, unfortunately, are stuck in completely erroneous constructural belief systems that I call religion, that I differentiate from the traditional cultural religions, but they are religious mindsets nonetheless. And they don't just quite understand how they have to actually get involved in this battle, because this is, as I said, a spiritual battle, and it's going to take warriors. We need to become spiritual warriors in this battle, because it's a battle for the minds and hearts of the people of this planet, and it's a battle for our very freedom. And that is literally true, because we're losing our freedoms day by day. And what people believe the solutions are, unfortunately, are not what is going to save us, is not what is going to lead to true freedom. This is why I'm saying the people who say they want freedom and recognize that they're living in a controlled system, in a system of what is amounts to slavery in the modern day, what they have to understand is that there is no political solution, there is no financial solution, there is no technological solution. The solution is spiritual. The solution is becoming someone who cannot be fooled, tricked, or placed under mind control. The solution is becoming someone who does not worship money just to go do immoral things for a paycheck. The solution is that people have to actually become truly moral. Freedom is reserved for moral people. And once again, I delineate and distinguish completely between true objective morality versus nonsensical, religious, dogmatic, so-called morality. I am not a religionist. I am also not an atheist. I don't subscribe to either of those dialectical mind control conditions.
I mean, that's saying a lot, because you do come from a Roman Catholic background.
Yes.
And so you were the difference between Catholicism and my own upbringing as a Southern Baptist is ritual. Roman Catholic religion is very heavy on ritual,
Yes.
whereas the Southern Baptist is really heavy on rhetoric. So we have very similar backgrounds, and we both pretty much divorced ourselves from these paradigms.
My background has spanned the gamut because I was born into Roman Catholicism. I was educated by Jesuits, and then I became a Satanist. So, if for people who know my background, they know the story very well. And a lot of the information that I understand regarding the occult came from direct experience in circles of dark occultism,
Wow.
namely Satanism. So it's something that I had to decide very early on in my broadcasting career whether I wanted to be open and speak about it openly and just tell people, or just keep it private. And I decided, no, I don't think that that should be kept private. I have to tell people my background and help them to understand the experiences that I went through, because I work directly with social engineers and mind controllers and dark occultists. And I was helping them get that work done, get their dark work done back in my youth.
You talk
And
about like, are you talking about like Tavistock type stuff?
absolutely things like
Okay.
that.
I understand.
I didn't get into think tanks that are that large or that well known, but I was involved in my early life with the Church of Satan, which was run by Anton LaVey. So I got very disillusioned with religion when I was in my young teenage years. And I decided that I was going to turn all of that disillusionment and anger that I perceived being lied to about, the realities of our world, and all of the, sociological questions that I have that religion couldn't answer. I just decided I'm going to seek out the exact opposite, and I'm going to get involved in what would be considered to be evil. So I started getting into the occult, which, by the way, does not mean, obviously, your viewership probably knows this well. Occult does not mean evil; it means hidden.
Right.
So, but back then I was just trying to just find the polar opposite to the most direct extent that I could than religion, and specifically Christianity. So I found LaVey's Satanic Bible and basically devoured that, and that became my mental ideology in my state of ego and ignorance when I was young. And basically I espoused that satanic ideology, which again we can get into what the main belief system is of real Satanism, not what religionists believe Satanism to be, worshiping some deity with with horns and red skin and a tail and hooves, which is childish, cartoonish belief. But what it really is the apotheosis of the ego, the raising of the ego to godhood, which is basically what the social engineers are, and what they're trying to become. They want to become God on this planet and rule everyone with an iron fist. So, when I discovered LaVeyan Satanism when I was young, I ran with that ball and I started espousing the ideology by writing. It was through writing that I really began putting Satanism out into the world in these little self-published magazines called fanzines, which were very big in like the 80s and 90s, and
Yes, they
in the
were.
in the underground music and art
I was
communities.
heavily influenced at that period in the late 80s and 90s by the little pamphlets that were going around by the anonymous wicked jester. Do you remember those?
Interesting. I have not read that one, but
No
that
one knew
sounds
who no
interesting.
one knew who Wicked Jester was, but he always had the most incisive, badass little quotes that were all anarchist stuff. It's badass.
Interesting. I would write some articles for small fanzines. Probably the largest one that I ever wrote for was called The Grimoire of Exalted Deeds, which some people may remember from the underground death metal and black metal circuit. Again, I was very big into heavy music, still am, quite frankly. That's still, what lies at my heart musically. And although I span the gamut when it comes to musical genres, I love all kinds of music. But metal and death metal were my preferred genres when I was young, and I started a death metal band where we espoused Satanism in the lyrics, very, very, very heavily. And through my writing and music, Anton LaVey himself discovered me. People will say, well, what did you do to become a priest in the Church of Satan? Like, what kind of process did you have to go through? I was just a regular member because I agreed with the ideology back then. And I espoused it in, again, art and writing, music and writing. And LaVey contacted me to appoint me a priest within the Church of Satan. Now, when people hear this, this always gets distorted. And I try to be very clear and clarify what I mean by this. So I was never a high priest. I never held a high rank. I was not very high up in this hierarchy within the satanic community.
I was just about to ask you, what is it hierarchical in nature? I mean, it's do they have deacons? They have orders? Do they have rituals that get you hired to? I don't understand. I don't know anything about it. I have read. It was a mystical magazine that had a bunch of LaVey writings in there, but all they did was paraphrasing. So I'm really not familiar with. I'm not really familiar with too much of his hardcore books.
They've
but is
added.
The Church of Satan, is it hierarchical? I mean,
it is. It
Okay.
is. And they have added some rankings since I was involved. When I was involved, there were very simple ranks within the Church of Satan. There was member at the bottom of the hierarchy. And that just required joining, paying the membership fee, applying with the application, which is basically a psychological vetting procedure to see if you really have the mindset of Satanism. And then you became a member and they gave you a card. And that was
you just described the first 13 degrees of Freemasonry. They're just
that's right.
They're just feeling you out before they take you higher.
Amen. Yep. Exactly. So that's rank 1, at least when I was involved. Rank 2 is, if you basically aspired to become an active member, you actually then would do things to try to promote the satanic ideology. And if that work was recognized, you would be made priest by the high priest of the organization. So that's the second rank, was priest. Above that, there was magister / magistra. So depending on the person's, sex, it was either, magistra for females and magister for males. So that is basically like a lieutenant for priests. Okay, it's basically the people who structure the activity of the priests in the order, in the organization. And above magister, you had Council of 9, which is a ruling body for the whole structure of the organization, the direction of the organization. They're like generals who are carrying out the orders of the high priest.
Is this based out of San Francisco or San Diego?
Yes, it was San Francisco back then when Anton LaVey was still living. He died in late 1997.
Right.
And it went under a few other people's leadership until it now is run by I'm trying to think of his name. Peter Gilmore is the current high priest right now. So
is there no crossover with Aleister Crowley?
I would say that there's not direct crossover with Thelema, although sometimes they discuss similar topics. I wouldn't directly liken or associate Thelema directly to dark occultism. It has elements of both, especially if you get into the very complicated area of looking at Crowley himself, which is not necessarily Thelema, but it is Crowleyism. So it's very enigmatic in that, Crowley may have begun the ideology and the philosophy of Thelema, but didn't necessarily walk its path in life. So I distinguish between Crowley and Thelema in my occultic work. But going back to the structure of the Church of Satan, you have high priest at the top above Council of 9. So it's a very simple structure, 5 basic ranks. And I never moved up beyond priest. I never became a magister. I never went into the Council of 9, certainly wasn't the high priest. I was a rank and file priest in the Church of Satan for a while. And LaVey eventually asked me, because apparently he himself was impressed with my communication abilities and how I would reach out to the wider community to express satanic beliefs. I guess he felt I had a good handle on the ideology, and I did. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made me a priest. And, I felt I did deeply understand it and espouse it. So he asked me to head one of their covens, which they don't call covens in this branch of Satanism. And this is not, again, one thing that should be understood before I even continue is this is not the entirety of Satanism in the world. This is one small sect of Satanism. Okay.
Right.
People think when I say I was involved in the Church of Satan and Satanism runs the world, that I'm saying the Church of Satan runs the world. I'm not saying that, never have. It's part of the very, very, very wider worldwide network of the satanic ideology and the people who are ultimately the social engineers for our world. This is their religion, essentially. This is their mindset. This is their ideology. And we could break down what the basic components of that ideology are momentarily. Just to give you an example of my background and complete that, I was only a priest. LaVey liked my writing and music, at least the satanic element within those things. And he offered me to head a grotto, which is what they call their covens. I recognized back then how much responsibility that entailed for an individual, how much preparation and groundwork that you would have to lay, and how many people's personalities you would have to deal with. And I was already in a band, signed to a label in Greece at the time, Unisound Records, and I was trying to get, go on tour, get tour support, all kinds of things that band members do. And you're dealing with the personality of 4 other people, minimum, in these types of bands and the type of music I was playing. And that was difficult enough in my life at the time. And I just didn't want to take on that responsibility. So I turned down the grotto leadership that was offered to me. Perhaps if I took that, he might have moved me up to magister. That never occurred because I told him I am not prepared to take on that responsibility. He accepted that and didn't press it, and basically gave me contact information through the mail. And there was no email. I mean, email did exist, but
Right.
we were still writing handwritten letters back then, with postage stamps, putting it in the mail and snail mail. And, none of this was digital. This was still all by hand communication back then in the mid 90s.
Oh, I sympathize. I have written probably 16 or 17 books, and some of them are close to 1,000 pages, and I wrote them all by hand.
Wow.
Because I was in prison.
Wow.
But I was writing by hand till 2016. So believe me, I sympathize. I know. Snail mail, sticking a stamp on it, and mailing it is the only way we can communicate.
That's right. So he gave me some contact info for other grottos in my tri-state area, namely Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. Again, people would consider the tri-state, area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. But the contacts he gave me largely lay in Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. So I attended a few, and basically that's when I got the wider picture of what the Satanic Network was and what was involved with it, because it was not just individuals studying LaVey Satanism. It was a much broader dynamic of human society present there. And it was leaders, it was power brokers and trendsetters and leaders in every single community and every single institutionalized walk of life that you can imagine.
Right. You had members of the bar, Fabian Society. Yeah. You had all your fraternal benefit societies, Moose Lodge, Elks. I get it. I get it.
And every other societal institution. I mean, you had teachers, principals of schools, doctors,
Right.
lawyers, cops, military people, politicians, judges.
These are the people we all see on the media, in the news. These are the mayors, the governors.
That's right.
These are the ones running everything, and they got to do what their handlers tell them to do. And that's why we always can't believe that they just passed this law or they're enforcing this rule, and everything's just so ass backwards.
It is a worldwide hierarchical network. And when I saw it in person, it viscerally shook me to the core that they were very, very open among themselves, talking about how they were trying to control all of human society. Very open, behind closed doors, they just spoke out freely and openly amongst each other about what their agendas were. And as I describe it, to put it as simply and succinctly as possible, it was to increase their own personal power at the expense of everyone else's rights and freedoms. They
Right.
wanted to cripple our rights and freedoms so that they could become God, essentially, was their overarching agenda. And when I, explain this to people, they're like, well, you couldn't possibly have gotten out of that. And that's another complete misunderstanding that people have regarding Satanism. It does, at some level, work like a mafia, but at the level I was involved in it at, they did not care if you decided not to cooperate or go along, because I did not, quote unquote, know where the bodies were buried. My involvement had not progressed to that extent where I was.
But you did suffer some extenuating circumstance. I mean, you've been digitally stalked. You've talked about it a lot on your channel, the harassment. You've had to disable your comments on a lot of your videos. So, I mean, they kind of remind you, they do remind you that, hey, man, we're still here. You know what I mean?
I don't know whether I even attribute that to Satanists as much as I do people in the so-called freedom community that just have a very debased understanding of things
I get it.
and want to attack me because I'm saying things that they get butthurt by, or that they, radically and vehemently disagree with. And then they want to make my platform into their platform.
Right,
And
right.
I'm not going to allow that, because my research is not just backed up by scholarly research and book reading, etc. It's backed up by direct first-hand personal experience
Yeah, you live the
among
life.
these social engineers.
Yeah, you
And
live the
then,
life. I'm gonna
yeah,
listen to you before I listen to somebody who read a book on Satanism.
right,
No doubt.
exactly,
No doubt.
exactly. And all the people who I know in life who I feel deeply understand what Satanism is have experience in the dark occult in some capacity. The first person I'll tell you, if you want to hear what really goes on at the higher levels of Satanism, which I was not involved in, is my friend Jay Parker. I mean, you check out his work, that he was born into a generational dark occult family and ritualistically tortured brutally as a child. So, his story overlaps a lot with someone like Kathy O'Brien and the stories that she has put forward in her books.
I've read one of her books. Yeah, it was almost unbelievable. I can't dismiss her, but uh some of the stuff that she had said in there was like, wow, man,
It's horrific,
this is actually going on. Wow.
horrific. Yes. And again, my involvement was not there at that level. So when you're at a very, very low level and you see what you're getting ready to involve yourself with, before you actually take that step, you have the option to say, no, I'm not doing this. And that's what I did. I basically said, look, I see what this is. This isn't like just learning hidden knowledge to increase your own individual personal power in your life. This is like you're trying to devastate other people's lives and turn them into unthinking automaton slaves. I didn't sign up for that. That is not what I signed up for when I got involved in the occult. So I still had a conscience to an extent, right? It
Right.
may have been degraded, it may have been completely stuck in the ego and in false constructs, but it was still there to the extent that I didn't want to enslave my fellow men and women. And I told them this, and I said, I have a moral problem with that. And they're like, well, there's the door. There it is right there. Out you go, boy. We don't need you. You need us. You think that we need you in this organization? We got 10,000 people that would step into any role that we could possibly want filled.
Well,
Yeah,
somebody in the comments section remarked that. They said it was easy for you to walk away because you weren't bloodline. So they don't feel like
correct.
it wasn't treachery. It was just like, okay, F off. Go on
And
about your business.
absolutely, absolutely true. But I would add to that as a small addendum, even within the bloodline families, you have the option to walk away. They don't give you that option until you reach the age of 18, basic adulthood that is
Right.
generally recognized. And they torture you mercilessly and get you psychologically dependent on them. And then if your spirit is actually strong enough, they will let you walk at the age of 18. This is what happened with Jay Parker. And that's how strong his spirit was, that they could not break him ultimately. So, and now he's been exposing it for the last more than a decade. So there are people who come out of this and speak out. And it's rare. It is rare, but it does happen. Another friend of mine, Jerry Blaze, who basically came out of the satanic mindset as well. I don't know how far he went in any actual organizations within Satanism, but definitely espoused the mindset. Went into came out of that mindset and then basically talked about it, exposed it, and he started some type of a religious organization that was Christian based, some type of a ministry. So some people go in the religious direction, some people go in the true spiritual direction and become whistleblowers. And this is the first thing about me and my work that I want to tell to everybody. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I take umbrage with that term applied to me.
Great word. Great word.
Don't apply that term to me. I'm a whistleblower. I have firsthand direct experience with the dark occult, and I'm blowing the whistle on that. I'm not theorizing or coming up with all kinds of ideas about it. I lived that life in my direct personal firsthand experience, which 99.99999% of people are never going to do. They're never going to be in those places. They're never going to be in those positions. So this is why I tend to get a little bit animated, excited, aggravated, however you want to call it, with people that want to say that they're more qualified to speak on Satanism, or that I'm not saying what real Satanism is. It's exactly the case that I'm telling people what real Satanism is. And if you believe in the religious notion of Satanism as comes from the Christian tradition of, this deity with a red skin and hooves and horns and a tail, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but you've been lied to. That's what religion's role is in our world, is to lie to people. It's to get people to believe ridiculous, nonsensical notions and ideas that are completely constructural in the mind and have no bearing on actual point of fact reality in nature. It is namely, religion is there for traditional cultural religions, there for one main reason, and that is to obfuscate true morality, which is why when I say the solution is directly living objective morality in our lives, because freedom is reserved for the truly moral, for the good, the truly good people. That's how freedom is manifested. Freedom is manifested through goodness and morality. I am directly delineating between true morality, which is objective and exists in nature, versus religious constructural morality that is put out there to confuse and obfuscate true objective morality in the minds of the masses of people. That's the goal of all religion, no matter what religious denomination or sect or branch we're talking about. That's the goal of Judaism. That's the goal of Christianity. That's the goal of Islam. That's the goal of Buddhism and whatever other religion. Taoism is a little bit different, but in general, organized religion is there to make people not understand true objective morality. It's to give people nonsensical subjective morality that they cling to dogmatically, and then basically make people who are trying to approach morality from a reasoned position and a true philosophical and spiritual position look at the religionists and go, I'm going to throw all morality out. I have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what happens with atheistic people. They'll throw morality out because religionists have this completely ridiculous, nonsensical view of morality that isn't in alignment with true morality. So this has been my work. My work has a few essential underlying components to it. So the generalities, I'll just briefly outline, and then we can get into whichever ones you want to explore. The generalities of my work are explaining to people what Satanism actually is versus what religions will tell you Satanism is, and the media and Hollywood and your parents and your clergy, whoever. Real Satanism contains four major overarching tenets or constructural belief systems that is really in the heart and mind of all the people who subscribe to it and espouse it and try to propagate it. And we could talk about those in a little bit. But my work involves exposing what real Satanism is and how these social engineers who espouse this ideology are really running the world and placing people under a state of mind control through their knowledge of occultism and the psychology that is contained within occult knowledge. The second part of my work is delineation between the real and the constructural. Delineation between what actually exists in the natural universe versus what human beings invent with the power of the imagination and the mind that has no bearing on actual point of fact reality in nature. That's a big component of my work. Another gigantic component of my work is what true morality is and how to align our behavior to it if we want to become free. Because there's a law in nature that as morality increases, freedom increases. And as morality declines, freedom declines. Morality and freedom are in direct proportionality to each other. This is a natural law of the universe. No truly moral people can ever really become enslaved as a species in the aggregate. And no truly immoral people can ever truly really become free, can ever attain the true state of freedom. So if you look at our society and you recognize that we are enslaved, and that is the case, we are living in enslavement, we are living in duress, we are living under a state of control, both mental and physical, then you have to understand that the prior factor, the a priori condition is immorality. Only an immoral species can become an enslaved species. Only a truly good species from a moral standpoint can ever become a free species. So that's a huge crux of my work. One of the other huge cruxes of my work is one that I would say comes under the most direct attack and is hated by a lot of people. And that is, what is true human nature? This is one of the big cruxes of my work because you will get the camp split almost 50-50 on both sides. Human nature is good, human nature is evil. Human nature is completely determined by genetics, human nature is completely random. And what I have been trying to explain to people from day one is that none of those things are human nature. And for anybody to state that any of those things are human nature, they really don't have the knowledge. They don't have the data. They don't have the grammar in hand because they haven't studied enough from the perspective of the Trivium Method of truth discovery and reasoning and logic. And this is another big component of my work, the Trivium process of learning how to think instead of just being indoctrinated into what to think, or getting a couple of soundbite snippets and then thinking you have the answer when it requires often years of scholarly intensive research and study and reading thousands of books. And then people want to burst into the room and say, I haven't read really anything on this, but this is what I formulated in my own mind just by thinking about it for the last couple of weeks.
I have this issue with detractors sometimes who require from me in 2 minutes what took me 2 decades to put together.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's irritating. I get it. And
absolutely,
the Amish are a really good example of what you just talked about. The Amish as a culture has remained virtually independent. You can't find a freer people.
Yeah, I mean they're huge out here in this community. I like a lot of components of their culture, and I dislike others. Particularly not interacting with technology. I mean, I'm not a Luddite. I am not a
that's because they're religionists. If I can remove that aspect from the Amish, everything else about them is of high moral fabric.
So, I'm not a primitivist. Technology is the way we get the word out, and it's absolutely required. This is another crux of my work. So, human nature is programmable. This is what I have been trying to explain to people, that it's almost entirely nurture. I'm not saying there's no role for nature or the genetics, but I'm saying that those are overcome by what we take into ourselves as far as knowledge is concerned, and then what we are willing to do with that knowledge through our free will. And people have a huge problem with this because they somehow want it to be deterministic, because that is what absolves them in their own distorted, twisted thinking from the personal responsibility to learn and to grow and to get involved and to put skin in the game and to take right action. They want to think, oh, somebody's locked into this form of behavior through their genetics. And do you know what that is? That level of thinking, that sort of Darwinistic and Galton-esque thinking, is completely mind control. And not to mention that it is actually 100% refuted pseudoscience that is over 150 or so years old, that has been completely disproven by the new and emerging science of epigenetics. And this is the
we're not uniformitarians here. We don't borrow into the natural selection evolutionary crap.
Thank God. And absolutely, because we have the will to change ourselves. If I could come out of the satanic mindset and develop the will to do what I do on a day-to-day basis, anybody can change. Change is 100% absolutely possible, absolutely within our grasp. We are locked into nothing. You know what we are locked into? That we are programmable. And that's how you know that's our nature. Our nature is, if good programming goes in, good output comes out on the other end, just like a computer program. We're not computer programs.
DNA is very sophisticated programming.
It can do majestic things, and we can help to bring different outcomes through it. It's a medium for being able to express. It's not something that locks us into an expression permanently. And this is what epigenetics has been teaching people and explaining scientifically for over 50 years. I would say close to 75 years, but certainly the last 50 years. And the problem is, it's just not out there enough for people to ingest on a larger basis. People don't have the grammar. To quote, the movie The Big Lebowski, one of my favorites, one of the greatest movies of all time, they're not privy to the new shit, man. That's what it all comes down to, is they haven't studied the new science that explains why and how the old so-called science is not correct. And it's sad, because people get latched onto that, and what that brings forward into the mind of those people is there's nothing we can do. We're just fixed to our programming, and we can't change that, and we can't change the outcome. And that's an absolute bullshit lie. It is a complete lie. It is one of the biggest deceptions ever given to us by the social engineers who want us to think like that. So these are the main cruxes of my entire body of work. And I'll go anywhere that you want, exploring any parts of those or components of that work next. Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I'll make some observations. First, here in Archaix, we don't take Satanism seriously for the same reason you don't. It's that it's the opposite of something else that is equally untrue, which in Archaix we have dissected the entire Christian movement from its inception, since it morphed under the Roman auspices from Mithraism and many other of the solar attachments, and became, over a 500-year period, a literary masterpiece, was literally turned into a historical event. So we understand that Satanism is real in what you're talking about as a movement, a control mechanism. But as far as the horn, tail, wings, and Satan, we're not buying it here either. Yeah. And so we're on the same page on that. I'm impressed that you're a fan of Arthur Schopenhauer, because you quoted him twice in different videos. So, and also that one of my messages in Archaix to my own community is something that you said a little bit differently, but you said this, I'm going to quote you. You said, "The truth is often the exact opposite of what the collective believes." And this is something we hold to be true in Archaix as well. It's one of the fundamental tenets of this research. Also, you said that one of the most dangerous beliefs out there in the field today, and a lot of people are pushing it, it's because they're overwhelmed with so much information coming to the field. They just shut down and they say now, you said the biggest lie out there now is that there is no truth.
truth. That's right.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful statement, man. It's a beautiful, because there is truth. You can find truth.
Yes, there is.
Let me give you an example real quick, and I'll let you continue. What I tell my community a lot, it says you can do mental exercises to understand that there is truth and there is error. So the very fact that the sun comes up routinely and we call that a day means we have tapped into a fundamental that is true for everybody. So if I can throw a rock up into the sky and we can all watch it fall down, we have tapped into a truth, because right. if not one time that rock went up and then just stopped in the air before hitting the ground, that's never happened. So if dogs are canine and cats are feline, and if I shoot myself in the foot with a pellet gun, it's gonna hurt. These are fundamentals and they're true for all of us. Therefore, if anything is true, then that means many other things that are not easily recognizable are equally true. We just have to isolate them.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I love the elegance of the simplicity in which that is worded, because A is A and B is B. It's very simple. Right. Objective truth exists. The issue is when the ego and the mind begin inventing things that they either want to be true or refuse to recognize what is true. And that's where the mind can get us into trouble. And going back to one of the things you began touching on is, yes, the ridiculousness of both religious beliefs and if you want to, group the type of Satanism that believes in that anti-God character / deity. It's very childish and cartoonish. But there is a reality of what real Satanism is in the world. And again, you could call it other names. You don't have to call it Satanism. I would say it could be called rampant egotism. I would say it could be called the apotheosis of the ego would be another name I would call this religion. You could call it embracing adversarialism when it comes to nature, and wanting to turn nature on its head and upside down. So right. It's just a label. Satanism is a label that many Satanists will give their ideology to liken it to the rebellious anti-God, anti-Christ figure in biblical scriptures. They like the association because they don't want to obey the laws of the Creator. They want to make their own hell and rule it. That's ultimately what they are attempting to do here on earth. And people have to understand that this is simply an ideological way of viewing the world and behaving in it. So I'll just repeat that one time. Satanism is an ideological way of viewing our world and behaving within it. And the next thing I would say about Satanism, it is the world religion. This is the world religion of what people have described as the New World Order. This is the world religion. It is essentially the overarching belief system that will put people into a state of slavery. And most people who do ascribe to this religion, who do actually live it in their lives, do not even know that they are living it. They don't know that they're believing in this religion. They don't know that they're living this religion through their behaviors. So that begs the question is, what is the belief system of Satanism? What are the actual ideological tenets? And they are, first and foremost, the ego is essentially the god of this religion. So I am the only person who matters. You could word it like that. And by extension, because they might be of benefit to me and my loved ones, me and my own, they matter somewhat, perhaps to a lesser extent than my ego does, but that's basically it. I'm the god of my universe. Me and my own are all that really matter. If that's happening to somebody else, I couldn't really give a crap. I'm not going to get involved. I don't really care if injustice happens all over the world, as long as I'm not directly affected by it in the moment and I still have my creature comforts and pleasure. That's the first mindset of what Satanism is in the actual real world.
It's
Now,
it's literally the mindset of everybody that we say sold out.
pure selfishness. Absolutely. Only caring about what you're getting, only caring about your paycheck, only caring about your creature comforts. Now, if we apply this ideology to the bulk of the human species, what percentage would most people think that's really how they think? I would say it's not even a matter of guessing who does think like that. It'd be guessing like who doesn't think like that. Most people think like that on a day-to-day basis. All they care about every single day and all their thoughts are primarily concerned with from the minute that they wake up until the minute that they go to sleep at night is me, 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 me. And all that's going to get us, that first overarching tenet is just going to get us nothing but slavery. It can only get us slavery by law in the universe. The law of the creator saw to it. That's what natural law ultimately is. Saw to it that if we behave purely selfishly and only care about our own creature comforts, we are guaranteed to become enslaved over time in the aggregate. That doesn't mean certain individuals wouldn't lead different, somewhat different lives than that, but the whole bulk of the population, allowing that mindset to fester within it and continue and not be challenged and not be changed, the whole population of the earth is ultimately going to become a slave population. That's why Satanism is actually, they market it as a religion for the masters of the world, because they try to tell people you'll be insulated from that and you'll be ruling over all the other slaves that we give this mindset to, that we inculcate into a lower level of our own religion, but you'll rule over them. And it's like that's the whole deception. Ultimate,
It's the exact same package that is presented by the rabbis and the Talmud for the Jewish people as well.
there you
It
have
is
it.
the exact same template.
That's it, because it's a form of Satanism.
Yeah.
Satanism is the world religion and everything is just underneath it. It's the umbrella religion. That's why the Satanists themselves, when I was involved with the higher level Satanists, there were some like just like myself, like Levian Satanists at the low ranks. The people at the top of even these grottos that I attended, they didn't call it Satanism. They called it the old religion. That
The
was
old,
their name for this mindset, the
yeah,
old religion. And when they say old, they mean ancient. They mean this has been the religion of humanity since
right.
humanity has existed. That's why they call it the old religion.
You will find the term um, in the old time in the writings of Henry Cornelius Agrippa, in Francis Barrett, in Albert Magus, who wrote the Occult Compendium. Uh, they make many references to the ancient ones and the old time, also in the Necronomicon, which is an admixture of fantasy and fact, because a lot of the
Yes.
Necronomicon is actually cuneiform translations of the Enema Elish and Atrahasis text, and then somebody added some BS in there, but still, it's yeah, I've seen that. There's even a book in a book tree in San Diego that publishes the guy that we were talking about earlier, Jordan Maxwell. There is a book in Booktree. The title of that book is The Old Religion.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Booktree is an occult. It's basically an occult bookstore. They publish all my stuff too, but it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting what you're talking about, because there's a lot of crossover. I was not aware that all those references though were talking about Satanism.
Essentially, that is the ideology. And if you explore it further, you will be able to condense the tenets or the underlying overarching ideology. The second tenet that comes out of the satanic mindset, which again, if you're realizing how deep the first one is, how profound that first one is, it's pure egotism run rampant and elevated to godhood, which is what apotheosis means. You're going to realize what's essentially going to come out next makes perfect sense, because a being that believes that they're God believes that they get to invent what right and wrong are. They don't have to discover what right and wrong are objectively in nature. They could just make it up. And that's called moral relativism. Moral relativism is the first fruit that comes out of the first tenet of Satanism, which is pure egotism. And if we recognize most of the world is trapped in pure egotism, then we will recognize how prevalent moral relativism is all around us. And that's the kind of ideology whereby people will say, there's no right and wrong. There's no real right and wrong. It's just people make that up. They get to decide what that is, and right is what's right for them, and wrong is what's wrong for them. And this person's morality can be completely different from this person's morality. I'm not talking about people's perception of morality. Yes, that's relative and controlled by perceptions. I'm talking about actual morality, meaning what is the actual, in nature, objective and real difference between right behavior versus wrong behavior. That delineation and distinction exists in nature. It is not a constructural idea because harm is conducted in the physical domain, and rights are behaviors which do not initiate harm. So a right exists in the natural world. It is not a constructural idea. Harm is demonstrable objectively. A being is hurt, diminished physically, or through their possessions, stolen from, defrauded from, deceived, etc. This is objective harm. So I basically get into arguments with religionists about things like this because they want to think that the things that their religion told them is what constitutes morality, like, don't be promiscuous sexually, or don't live with somebody before marriage, or don't smoke cigarettes, or don't drink alcohol, or don't, whatever, work on Sabbath. And it's just, it's so ridiculous what people believe wrongdoings are, right? Wrongdoings are sevenfold. These are the real 7 deadly sins that I talk about in my work, as opposed to the traditional religion's 7 deadly sins, which are, let's see if I could rattle them off. Pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, greed. That's what Christianity would have us believe are sins, are sinful, harmful behaviors. Okay? And none of these are sins. So pride doesn't do something to another person. Anybody can argue these could be stepping stones to behavior, but we're not talking about them as stepping stones to behavior. We're talking about the engagement of that dynamic.
Good distinction. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yes. So pride is not a behavior that you do to somebody else, right? It's just, and secondly, pride is not always not good. Sometimes it's very good. Right. I'm very proud of my work. I'm exceedingly proud of my work. I'm looking at the work that I'm doing on shadow work right now. Like I had my slides up on this very screen that I'm talking to you through right now, before the show started, and I'm looking at some of the slides and I'm like, this is incredibly powerful. This is potentially life transformative. And I'm like, I put a lot of work into this. I put so much, years of research, years, not weeks, not months, years. And I'm trying to craft every slide exactly how I want it to look and have the exact wording on it that will be the most concise and the most powerful. And you know what? I'm looking at my slides and I'm like, I got a tear welling up in my eyes. I'm like, this is unbelievably strong material, and I can't wait to deliver it. I can't wait until the whole process is over and it's in the books, because it's so much work to do. But I'm proud of that. That's not a bad thing.
So what Mark is talking about, the link is in the description box for that project. You want to check it out. I think it even has the word shadow work in the link, right?
Yes, it's called Shadow Work Seminar. Mark Passio's Shadow Work Seminar.
Yeah. Matter of fact, all his links are in the description box. So he's got a lot of projects he's involved in.
That's coming up November 22nd of this year. It's going to be on Telegram. It's an all-day event. So I'm speaking. My actual presentation will at least run 8 hours.
Oh, this is a space on Telegram?
It's a group on Telegram that when you enroll and make an enrollment donation, you'd be admitted to the group on Telegram. It's a private
Okay.
group. And I'll be teaching this seminar on Telegram the whole day. There will be breaks for lunch and dinner, but it will basically be going from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And it's going to be extensive, very deep dive into psychological and spiritual work upon the self, which is what's required more than anything else if we're going to solve humanity's current condition of slavery. So, we're talking about, the real seven deadly sins, right? Versus the religious ones. Pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, greed, religions, deadly sins. False religions, deadly sins.
I do see
No,
your point. I want to
yeah,
interject real quick. I see your point.
sure.
I mean, when it comes to lust, I'm not going to feel guilty because I see some female that just, just causes me to pause. Like, damn, what I mean? I'm not
Hey,
going to feel guilty about that. But
we're red-blooded men, man. I
I mean,
mean,
it's the pride too. I mean, I can see why the church as a control mechanism would not want you prideful, because a prideful soul is one that's very difficult to control.
right.
I can say I understand. I never really looked at it from that perspective. The seven deadly sins. I haven't, and I see that the catalyst here for the transmutation of something that is insubstantial to something that actually causes harm is activity. Is what
That's
you
right.
do. Is what you do.
Correct.
I see that.
Correct.
It's very clear.
You have a logically structured mind. It's very, very easy to tell. So that's a nice refreshing thing, and that's what I'm trying to help inspire in other people, and I know you are too. So that behavior.
You have a beautiful catchphrase. I mean, it's all over your channel, and you say it, and it's even written in many different places. Ending slavery one mind at a time. So
That's all any of us can do.
yeah,
That's all any of
it's
us can
making
try
sense,
to
bro.
do. Yep.
It's just
Very difficult.
in between your catchphrases and in between because I noticed that your conclusion was I got a note right here that I made based off one of your presentations. It said you were really frustrated in the video. You were really frustrated about the stupidity of humanity.
Yes.
And you even said something like, "I've been telling you this for 18 years, and you're going to ask me this question again." So, so you said, "Oh, why are we not accomplishing this task of ending the human condition of slavery? The only way of getting free is aligning our objective with natural law and objective morality." And then what really impressed me was, because this is a long video here, and I just paraphrased it, but the conclusion of the video was the solution can only be spiritual.
That's right.
So that's all. I mean, coming from your background, that's a profound statement, because that's a metempsychosis right there, to go from Satanism and something that is egoic, and then conclude that the only way that we're going to change humanity is going to have to be done spiritually. There's nothing we can do in the physical world. Like, that's pretty profound.
I became obsessed with studying the light occult after I saw what the dark occult was doing. When I saw that little peek that I got behind the curtain, it lit a fire under my ass. And I'm not too macho or proud to say, I became very scared. When I saw who was really running things in the shadows behind the scenes, it frightened the hell out of me, and it spurred me to really going deep in the other direction on a deep dive into real positive light occultism and true morality. And I just devoured everything I could on the topic from every tradition imaginable. I took an integral approach and just studied everything that I could get my hands on. So to go back to like the idea of real morality versus religious delusional morality that gets people to think, let's throw all morality out because these people are crazy. And that's what religion is there to do, to get people thinking like that. So we dismiss all morality. All of the religious forms of, quote, sin are thought forms. Like you said, lust, right? Like, what red-blooded male hasn't felt the dynamic of lust build up in them if they see a very beautiful woman, right? I mean, All of us have, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to go and rape a woman. You know, a person at
Right.
a meetup said to me, "Oh, lust is absolutely a sin because it could lead to rape." I'm like, "Have you ever lusted?" And the person goes, "Yeah, not going to lie, of course I have." And I said, "Have you ever raped anybody, man?" And he goes, like, went silent because he knows he's in a complete logical fallacy. He knows his argument doesn't hold any water. And I'm like, you need to think about that more than like 30 seconds. Either that means you know your argument is dead or you really have raped somebody, which either one makes you a piece of crap. So which is it? And I literally said that to him. You know, it's like, how,
Yeah, I get it. It's a logical loophole, and
right?
people can't get around it. 100%. I get it.
Behavior. Sins are behaviors. So listen to the real seven deadly sins and listen to the qualitative difference. This is what I always tell people to do. Listen to the difference between these two sets of data. Pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, greed versus the real seven deadly sins. Murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and deception. They're the real seven deadly sins. Those are all behaviors conducted upon others. You can't do those behaviors to
They're all
yourself.
actions as opposed to emotions. I get it.
Actions upon others, even, right? That's what constitutes transgression against natural law. Those are the wrongdoings. Anything that is not part of those wrongdoings is reserved as a right because it is a behavior that does not initiate harm to others. Those seven behaviors are the ways that you can initiate harm to another being, to another sentient being. So natural law comes down to one simple axiomatic law slash premise. Do not do, do not initiate harmful behaviors against other sentient beings. Don't do those seven things to other people. And we can condense it even more. Believe it or not, it's even more condensable into something shorter. When you realize that all of the harmful behaviors that we can initiate are forms of theft in and of themselves, you can boil natural law down to one commandment or one law: don't steal. Because murder is the theft of life, which is not rightfully yours to take. And we're not talking about killing in self-defense, which is a right. We're talking about murdering somebody. That's why there's different words for that. It's not the same idea. It's not the same concept. It's not the same behavior. Assault, thieving or taking without right bodily well-being. Rape, thieving or taking someone else's free will sexual association. You can go on and on and on. Theft is just the stealing of property that isn't yours.
How do you associate theft with ego?
Because people believe that they have a right to take that which isn't theirs just based on what immediate need that they have. And
Okay.
they're diminishing someone else through property, and that places their ego above somebody else. They're saying, I'm more important than you. I'm taking this from you. You know, it's all all of those behaviors are what real Satanism is. And it becomes even worse because then they're incentivized. People are incentivized to do these things through money, through their jobs. This is what all order followers are: people who have been incentivized to conduct harm upon other beings and decimate their rights because they're being offered a paycheck. This is why people ask me, how do the controllers get away with this karmically if you believe in natural law? And I say, who are they doing the behaviors to? Do you think the top level social engineers are doing these behaviors to other people? Or are they whispering in someone's ear and giving them occultic talismanic pieces of paper that they call money to influence their behavior? They're not doing these behaviors. They're influencing order followers to do these behaviors. So This is what people have to understand, is it is our behavior that goes out into the world and creates a ripple effect through natural law that brings us the consequences of those behaviors to us. And in the aggregate, if we're truly good, we're going to truly become free. And in the aggregate, if we've been truly immoral and remain that way, we're going to go into deeper and deeper bondage and slavery and
So
ultimately extinction.
you have really exemplified what when the apostles asked Jesus. And remember, I am of the opinion, based off a lifetime of acquiring data, I have extensive data sets published
Yes.
on basically the creation of the entire Christian gospel narrative. So it's I'm speaking from the perspective of one of the greatest literary masterpieces ever. And in that text, one of the apostles asked Jesus, man, I mean, well, what do you, I mean, you tell us all these things and all that, but what is the, well, what is the great takeaway here? What is the sum total? And Jesus basically told him, you can sum everything up and just do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
The golden rule. And I look at that in the apophatic sense. So a lot of people who study scripture and, if you want to call it simply God's law revealed unto us, they take a couple of different approaches. And one is the cataphatic approach, and that's where the word catechism comes from. This is describing what something is directly. This is a gray T-shirt, with a print on it. The cataphatic approach is simple statements about what something is. The thing that a lot of people miss or skip over is the apophatic approach to studying either scripture or just general characteristics of things. And this comes from the Greek apophasis, which means to say no or to not say, to stay silent and not speak. So apophasis is basically describing what something is by describing what it is not. It is saying the negative about the thing. This is not orange in color.
Right.
This is not a tool. It is a piece of clothing, right? So if you strip all the things that are not something away, you're left with the essence of what it is. That's the apophatic approach.
Okay,
And
I didn't even know that word, Mark. I didn't. Apophatic. You just educated me on that. But one of the research tenets of Archaix is to remove every single item that does not belong to a paradigm and then see what remains behind. We kind of use a Sherlock Holmes or Arthur Conan Doyle approach
yes,
in our research.
whatever remains must be the truth, and that is the
Right.
apophatic approach. So I
Right.
take the apophatic approach to the golden rule through my work in natural law, and that means don't do to others that which you do not want others to do to you. Then the ambiguity of it all goes away, right? Because people want different things, but we all don't want the same thing. We don't want to be killed. We don't want to be controlled. We don't want to be defrauded. We don't want to be stolen from. It becomes a lot simpler to understand what behaviors not to do, because they are the wrongdoings that transgress against another individual's natural law rights in nature. And that's, the apophatic variant of the golden rule. And this is all I've been trying to explain to people regarding what real morality is. And if we just see, people will say, well, you're not giving me a list of things to do. This isn't about following orders like a trained monkey and being given a list of things to do. This is about what we have to stop doing. Freedom is going to come as a direct result of ceasing and desisting in the harmful behaviors that are transgressions against natural law. We stop doing those behaviors and we'll become a moral population, and we will have freedom as a direct organic result of not engaging in those direct harmful behaviors against others. That's how natural law functions, to bring us the direct consequences of our free will decisions that we enact into behavior.
Wow. So you made a quote, not in this presentation, but you did on another presentation that really stood out. After about a 5-minute rant, as to why somebody needed to shut the hell up because they didn't know what they were talking about, you concluded with, and I quote, "I am charged by creation to tell the truth regarding governing dynamics of our freedom." And then that was your mic drop. So I had to write that down, man. You got some good ones. I mean, I'm pretty much known for that too, man. I do the mic drops every once in a while.
I really, in my pursuit and study of light occultism, the positive knowledge within the occult sciences, one of the things that I very deeply and profoundly studied was the quieting of the mind, because there's so many things competing with our attention, and we become distracted and unfocused, and we become ineffective because we're constantly being pulled in a million different directions, not just in the physical world, but in our mental space.
Right.
And when I started really studying occult forms of meditation, and they are what you would group and categorize under the umbrella term transcendental meditation, because they help us transcend certain mental states and blocks. And this is something I'm going to, of course, talk about in my shadow work seminar. When I really started studying the occult forms of transcendental meditation, they were explaining it in a much more deeper and profound way, because they were explaining every obtrusive thought takes you off mission, because you're not really listening to what the universe is asking of you and telling you what your mission actually is. That voice does not yell. It does not speak above a whisper. It is omnipresent, and it's always speaking. If you can hear it, if you can really quiet your own mind, you will hear what you need to do. Your dharma will be revealed. And that's an Eastern concept, but it's brought into the Western mystery traditions through the concept of your true will, which of course comes through Thelema, the Thelemic tradition. So, transcendental meditation really helped me to understand there's a million competing thoughts in my mental space. And if I learn how to silence those competing thoughts, I will get the message that I need to get. And when I learned how to do that, and I could stop my thoughts practically at will, that voice became very clear, and it charged me with that mission. And that's why, thank you for reading that quote. It's a profound one, and it's something that I take very seriously. And I've had some traumatic stuff go on over the last few years in my life.
I get it. I listened to one of your videos too, where you were explaining why you were gone for 4 weeks about your father and all that.
Sure.
So
I'm trying to make a renewed commitment to this work at this time, because I think I have more and very important material to contribute. So I'm getting a little emotional, but I don't want to really burn this to the ground. I want it to continue, and I have some powerful stuff coming. I promise people.
That's awesome. I want to talk about, you just mentioned something about it's always a small voice. It's not going to yell at you. Well, I'm kind of a student of P.D. Alspensky, and he was a student of Gurdjieff.
Yes.
I've never really resonated with Gurdjieff, but Alspensky's work, man, it lights a fire in my soul when I read it. And after Alspensky, I went into the writings of Ishak Bentov, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, A Brief Tour of Higher Consciousness. And what this man did is publish 2 books and gave demonstrations that information that we really need is already accessible to us. It's in the field. And if you just sit still and you just meditate and just force the world out and all its concerns, whatever issues that you need to cogitate upon, whatever information you need to bring into your awareness, it's already there. It's in the field. Right. Information saturates us everywhere. And that what you're looking for is only going to be received if you quit broadcasting.
That's
right.
If
you just quit broadcasting and be the receiver and shut everything out, what you're looking for is going to come to you. It's going to, all the answers to the questions, whatever it is. So that's
a profound idea. Very well stated. Absolutely true. And
Yeah, I
if
love it.
people,
Ishak Bentov is awesome. I think he passed away now, but I've got 2 of his books.
Mhm. It's absolutely profound. And if people just practiced it even a little bit in their lives, they would see how much will come through that field of intelligence and that field of creativity. It's always there and always around us, as you said.
So I have another question.
Sure.
I didn't quite understand what you were talking about, but it was a term that I had never heard before. The unbegun, and it was an
Yes.
occult term you were trying to you were describing, but you weren't. It wasn't the subject matter of your video, so it was just an aside.
Yes. So the unbegun is a term that dark occultists that I have heard them apply to the body of humanity. They call people the unbegun because they are not initiated into knowledge and into care. They are people who haven't started, and they're just sitting before the starting line going nowhere. So they literally refer to them in their lives as unbegun. And this is one of the ways that they justify a lot of the control mechanisms and things that they do to people. They basically say they're not really people. They're deadened consciousness. Another term that they use for the average individual in dark occult circles is the dead. If you can even believe that, they call
Oh, I
people
do believe
the
it.
dead.
We haven't talked about it because this is an opportunity for you to share who you are and what you do with my community. But my community is already familiar. I mean, I'm a simulationist, and there's many reasons why I believe that we live in some type of very advanced spiritual simulation. And one of the hallmarks of that is that we're immortal souls passing through an experience, but that doesn't mean we're all immortal souls. There are NPCs in the field too, and some of them are recognizable as NPCs. But this would be game parlance, like non-player character. We're
Right.
talking about avatars with no souls, and they're just there to populate a world to make it more believable, or to create distractions and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. It's what you're describing, the living dead. This is also a tenet of the Archaix paradigm.
Absolutely. I'd like to add as an addendum to that, I'll credit Michael Tessarion for talking about that. We are here to develop a soul, and that may come from other, philosophers and traditions. But I
He and
think
I are in absolute agreement about that.
yeah, perhaps we're not even here with a soul. We're here to build one.
Very
And
well.
these quote unquote NPCs that people often talk about in simulation theory are just people who have not done any work to even begin developing a soul. And it shows so obviously to people who have done a lot of work to develop the soul. So I don't necessarily look at it like a physical simulation, but we are in what would amount to a spiritual simulation, and our spirit is being suppressed and repressed, and our mental capacities and our potentiality is being suppressed and repressed in that constructural worldview in which many people are held. This is why shadow work is so important. Shadow work is all about delving into the underdeveloped or undeveloped aspects of the self, or the parts of the self that are very what you would call negative or that you don't like about yourself, and asking yourself very, very difficult questions about your own responsibilities and your own involvements, and not making excuses for things that you haven't developed or worked on to the extent that perhaps you should have. So, a lot of people don't want to hear that. I describe my later work as forced shadow work because I'm constantly pushing right in somebody's face all the negative and dark aspects of their own characteristics and personalities that they don't want to confront. And that's very uncomfortable, and people don't like it when people do that to them. They're like, oh, I want to remain in my comfort. I want to remain in my bubble. I don't want that. I don't want those dark and negative, perhaps repressed things within my own psyche shown to me like a reflection in a mirror. So that's
Right.
why I always hear people say, I like old Passio. I don't like new Passio. Well, once again, if you say that, I know you don't understand my work at all, because the new stuff is the most directly confrontational with the self. And that's
Right.
what's going to get us out of this mess. It's very important to study all kinds of things: symbolism, secret societies, control methods, all of it. All of that's important. everything that is brought to the table is going to help us piece together things and understand our world for the better.
Right.
But if
I
you don't,
do notice. I want to interject with
sure.
the fact that in one of your presentations you were saying that it says, look guys, if you're going to come to my channel and you're just going to watch the latest presentations, you're just wasting your time. He says you're going to get a little value and then you're going to go. It says, but if you really want to get to go deep into this and for major spiritual change, my deepest philosophical work is at the beginning. And once you have that foundation, everything else is going to follow.
It's because I spoke about consciousness, and what our real work here is to do is not to be comfortable, not to just gain pleasure.
Right.
You know, it's to learn and grow as a being. That's what building the soul is ultimately all about. If we're not doing that, we're not leading a purpose-driven life if we're not doing that. And also to lead a purpose-driven life, we have to get involved with the effort for true freedom. We have to understand true freedom. We have to stand for true freedom, and we have to get involved on the battlefield for true freedom.
Right. It's people are really terrible at time management. Time management is one of my specialties. My community knows it. I'm involved in a lot. I'm doing a lot. I got 3 different communities I do videos for. But people don't realize how much time they waste watching Cagney and Lacey, old episodes of Magnum PI, watching Twilight Zone. It's the second time you've been through the series since the 1960s. You know what I mean? When you could actually be listening to someone who has something profound to say and broadening your horizons. I can't believe I even pulled that out of my head, Cagney and Lacey. But you know what I mean? You get the gist.
Absolutely. And this is why I talk about,
to be had, and people ignore it.
A lot of people have not gathered the grammar, which is the first step of the trivium process. The trivium method of discovery and learning is ancient. People will debate where it originated, but I would say it goes back into antediluvian times. And it is about a threefold method. Again, the word trivium literally comes from Latin. Tres tria means 3, and via means road or way or path. And that comes down to us into the English word via, which means by way of or method. So it is a threefold methodology for truth discovery. It's the real scientific process.
Yeah, what you're describing is old in the old Hermetical literature.
Absolutely.
In the writings of like Hermes Trismegistus.
Yep.
It was also the same root words, the 3 teachings.
But, that's right. That's why he's thrice great, Hermes.
Yeah, he's the thrice great Hermes.
He's great in his thoughts, he's great in his emotions, and he's great in his actions, in his behavior.
Yeah, man. You know what? I could drink a beer with you, man. There's no doubt.
We will at some point. We will. Yes. Let's commit to doing that. I'm in. So, the trivium is what people have to learn, because it emphasizes the role of knowledge, but it helps us to even go beyond knowledge, because knowledge is the first step of the trivium, right? So there's a couple of ways of looking at the trivium. The ancient way was knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And knowledge is only the first part. That's gathering the grammar, all the building blocks that you need for knowledge. That's having the data set. This is why I get angry and a little shouty sometimes with people.
You ain't got to apologize
who don't have the data set, right? And they want to pretend like they have the data set. Like, I see the considerable library behind you. I'm sure that's not all that you possess.
Oh, one day I'll certainly not.
Yeah, one day I'll take my camera into my library for people and show them. Actually, T. Snyder from One Great Work Network is actually putting together a documentary about me, which is I know he did and is doing a phenomenal work and effort. I can tell by his time with me how painstaking and exacting he is. He's a total consummate professional when it comes to how he does things, and I can't wait to see it. No rush, because I'm sure he's still very early on in the editing process, but he's doing this for many content creators in the truth community. And I think this is a great undertaking because it shows what the content creators' effort is and what they go through, and even their emotional states, etc. And that's going to be forthcoming from
Awesome.
Teese in the future. But yeah, it's all about, like I was saying, like, I'll show people my library. That's he filmed it obviously and is going to be showing that in the documentary. But I get upset with people when I know they don't have the grammar and they're trying to speak like they're an expert on the topic. Get the
Right.
grammar first and then understand it. That's the second part of the trivium, is you put the grammar through logical transforms so that you can weed out logical inconsistencies in the data set. And that is then coming to an accurate understanding about what the data means. Just having the data doesn't mean that you really understand the implications of the data. So that's the
Right.
second part of the trivium. You have to have a logically constructed mindset and approach to weeding out things that are not logically consistent. Once you do that, you're going to have a grasp of the data set, of the
Yeah.
knowledge. That's
Exactly.
understanding.
There's just no conclusion without a premise.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
And then the third stage is wisdom. And people think wisdom, oh, how's that different from knowledge? Isn't that just how much you know? No. Wisdom is not how much you know. Wisdom is whether or not you've done the right actions with what you have come to know and understand. Wisdom is right action in the world. For those to become truly wise, you have to actually act in the world in a moral capacity based on your knowledge and your understanding of that knowledge. So that's the trivium, and it's been worded in different ways. In the classical liberal arts education methodology that was developed around the time of the Greek and Roman Empire, it would be called grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So it's gathering the building blocks, coming to a logical understanding of what those building blocks of data mean. And then rhetoric is what you're going to do with it out into the world. How are you going to put it out there into the world so it's understood by more people? And the modern form of the trivium, which I talk about it as in the computer allegory, I'm a techie. I'm a tech guy, not going to lie. Never apply the word nerd to me because definitely I'm not that. But you could call me a tech geek if you want. I used to do it professionally. I did troubleshooting professionally as a living. I know my way around computers. I know how to fix computers. I know my way around software. So, and again, I teach this in how to become the true media. So, I gave the trivium a computer allegorical wording, you could say, or descriptive wording. It's input, processing, and output. Input is gathering all the information, processing the information, that's logic or understanding, and then outputting it into the world, just like a computer outputs something onto the screen, onto a drive, onto the internet. It's the whole process of discovery, understanding, and then what are you going to do with it in the world? And that's what's going to determine whether it's ultimately going to make you wise or not.
Yeah, I love your definition of wisdom is point on. That's exactly what we say here in Archaix. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. It's has nothing to do with the information you possess. It has everything to do with how you use it.
Correct. 100% correct.
Yeah, man, that's a great conversation. It's I'm glad my community dropped your name. I did a video about a month ago where I asked my community, I said, listen, we're looking for quality content. We're looking for people that have a message and they have a fire behind that message. And I would like you to drop their names in the chat and in the comment section. Well, my community, they don't pay attention. So they email bombed me. And yeah, they put your name in the live chat, they put your name in the comment section, and then they email bomb the shit out of me.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that people haven't completely forgotten about me. But that's nice that they would drop my name there and ask for me to come on. I appreciate you extending that offer to me.
Yeah, man, I've been about 300 podcasts. I've been a guest on a lot of people's over the last 5 years. It's just, I kind of exploded about 3 years ago. But for the first 2 years I was on YouTube, I didn't have anybody listen. I had 300 and something videos and didn't even have 1,000 subs.
Wow.
And I didn't give up, but because I wasn't just putting information out. I had a whole lifetime of writings, articles, books I've had published, and all that. So it wasn't really a lot of work. I was just putting information out that I already knew, already had.
Right.
But then overnight, I just started. It hadn't stopped. I've been growing exponentially.
That's what'll happen if we really apply ourselves and don't give up. I mean, not giving up is one of the greatest lessons that people can learn. And doesn't mean you're always going to succeed. It means that even if you fail, you don't stop. This is one of the tenets that I teach in How to Become the True Media. Never, ever give up. Be tenacious. Be persistent. Persistence will ultimately show through. And you have to be consistent too. I feel like my message has been consistent from the very beginning, and I just keep pressing forward with that in many different ways. To tie this into something that we were just talking about, the dark occult calling people the unbegun and the dead.
Yeah.
Terrible names to apply to human beings, but in some ways they're accurate for how people behave, and they're not really alive and building their purpose, and they give up very easily. This whole thing is about starting and trying.
Right.
It's like if you just get it to that level, you're 99% ahead of the rest of the people. This is what real occult initiation is. And in my studies of the occult, again, after I left the dark occult and became obsessive to study what I had just, stumbled into practically, I started studying what is real occult initiation. And it's a fivefold process. And, this is about, first and foremost, the very first tenet, the very first axiom, principle, however you want to word it, I would word it as a maxim, right? The very first occult maxim is stop lying, especially to yourself.
Right.
So this is brought forward
To thine
in
own self be true.
Shakespeare, exactly, who was probably the occultist Francis Bacon of the Rosicrucian order.
Man, that's my man. You know what? I've taken so much criticism for telling people that you just don't understand. Francis Bacon is actually Francis Tudor, and they couldn't let his mama was letting people up in the queen's bed, and she didn't want to get caught.
More likely than not, that's who Shakespeare was, or it was perhaps a few people within the Rosicrucian order at the time who decided that they were going to write profound allegorical plays to get certain messages out to their local population.
Absolutely.
So, and it stayed throughout human history and is still here with us. And they do teach profound lessons. So, that's the very first maxim of occultism.
Right.
Don't lie to yourself. This above all, to thine own self be true. And see, that's just like the parlance of the time. When Shakespeare is saying that, what he's really saying is the very first and primary principle is be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. If he had said this above all, to thine own self be honest, then people would understand this isn't about like quadrupling down and sticking to your guns, even if you're wrong, because you think that that's part of your identity. And I'm going to be true to myself by sticking to this. That's not what Shakespeare was saying. The maxim is this above all, to thine own self be honest. Meaning if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anybody else either. And if you're not going to be honest with yourself, you're more likely to buy into deception and deceit and falsehood and nonsensical constructural ideas that aren't going to get
that
you
is
anything.
one of my ultimate catchphrases in Archaix. One who is properly informed is not easily deceived.
There you go. Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave.
That's right.
It's all about that. So that's the first tenet. Then you go off into other tenets that help you to develop your course as you move forward in your exploration of the occult and in teaching what people really need to understand and know and live in their lives. So the other ones are stop dreaming. This means see the world as it really is. Don't try to see the world through rose-colored glasses just because that makes you feel more comfortable. That means you're in a state of a dreamlike state. You're sleepwalking. Don't just go through motions. Really be focused and present, and eliminate all all the competing noise. You learn how to do that, you're going to see how effective you become. You really gain personal effectiveness when you do that, and you eliminate this dream state, this sleepwalking state that we sometimes find ourselves in. Then after that is learn how to think. And in this occult maxim, the trivium is basically being indirectly referenced. It's saying stop being indoctrinated. Stop just grasping at straws and beliefs. Really truly learn the truth discovery methodology, and then you'll know how to think from a practical, real world perspective. And again, then you're not going to be easily deceived, because if someone gives you a claim or tells you data, you can put it through the transforms of the trivium and then come to an accurate understanding, or say it's nonsense. Then you have one that's one of the most important, and that people give too little importance to, and that is truly live in the present moment. Be present. Don't be on autopilot. The NPCs that we were talking about earlier, they're on autopilot, right? You don't want to be on autopilot like a robot. You want to be fully present. Present moment awareness is one of the hard ones for people to really get. In the higher levels of the occult circles, they talk about present moment awareness in conjunction with the occult principle of indistractibility. When you're fully present and you've learned how to truly make your mind fully present with no distraction, then you are going to be indistractable. That means no one's going to be able to take you off your current work or your long-term mission. You're going to be fully committed to that long-term mission.
So what you're saying right now is it's key. It's a key component to Ishak Bentov's conclusions, is that the human that wants to become powerful enough to where what they're doing actually affects the field and creates their world for them is the human that can focus. Because if you can focus on what you're trying to do for just a couple of minutes and actually do whatever it is you focused on, you've done more than 99% of humanity, because everybody's living in a reactive mindset, and very few people are being proactive. And they think that every random thought that passes through their head is theirs, but information's in the field. So Ishak Bentov says all you got to do is focus on something you want for 2 or 3 minutes, and then accomplish it, ignoring all the distracting thoughts that are trying to be invasive. And if you can do this 2 or 3 times a day, then 4 or 5 times a day, and get better and better at it, he says you will absolutely create a world for you that is insular, and other people won't understand how everything goes your way, and nothing ever bothers you, and it's like the whole world just moves out of your way so you can just freely pass through. Ishak Bentov describes all this, and it's all about focus.
Absolutely correct. And he was a student of Ouspensky, you said, correct?
I believe he was. I am.
Yeah.
I believe he cites him pretty heavily.
I like both Gurdjieff and Ouspensky, and I will have to look more into his work. I have heard of him. I just haven't really read a lot by it.
I'm not turned off by Gurdjieff's material. I'm a writer, and I was a writer long before I was ever on YouTube. And it's writing style. It's Ouspensky's writing style is very different than Gurdjieff's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more enamored with it.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that is what, if people learned how to do that quieting of the mind and get into that state of indistractibility, they would become so much more powerful and effective in what they do in the world. And if that's turned toward true good, there's no stopping someone, and there's no telling what they can go on to do. In the occult tradition of Freemasonry, The lodge is an allegory for the human mind, and tiling the lodge, meaning placing the tiler at the outside door of the lodge and making sure that the tiler does not allow anyone into the lodge, is an allegory for not allowing intrusive thoughts into the mind. The mind is the lodge. We have to tile the lodge when we do our work so that we become indistractable and there's no competing intrusive thoughts. When we do that, and first of all, that's a beautiful allegory for that state of mind that we should enter upon doing work. When I make my presentation slides, and I'm going through this every single day right now, and probably will up to about a week before the event. Hopefully I'll finish long before that, but I'll be tweaking them right up till then. I am so focused. One slide may take me a couple hours. That's how focused in on it I am and how exact I want it to be. And after I work on those slides for the course of the day, it's like I'm so drained. Like all my energy is focused like a laser into that I'm so drained. Like I have to go lay down for like a half an hour to an hour.
Wow.
It's like it literally bodily, physically will take its toll on you when you become like you gather yourself to a laser-like focus like that. So this is what I'm doing basically every day right now. It's the mode that I've entered and have been in, because again, this is going to be some of my most deeply profound work regarding what we have to do to transform our own mind and ourselves and our behavior. And again, that's some of my most unpopular work, unfortunately. People really want to externalize everything. They want to externalize their power. They want to externalize what they think the solutions are. They want to say, oh, the solution is getting someone to start using this cryptocurrency, or we need a new technology, or we need a new way of growing food, or, a million different pseudo solutions. But very few people turn their gaze inwardly and say, what do I have to do to change? The solution really lies within us. That's
well, Mark,
where
I'm going to have to interrupt real quick. Sure. I'm going to let you take the screen for about 3 minutes because I got a whole pot of coffee that needs to come out of me right now. So my community is your community. Mi casa, su casa.
It will be in
right
good,
back.
it will be in good hands, I promise. Yes, thank you. So, we really have to pay attention to this tenet of, or maxim of, present moment awareness. It really is a difference maker when we study how the mind works and what our goal is here to do, which is to end the condition of human slavery. The fifth maxim or tenet in true positive light occultism is another one that people often have difficulty with, or don't want to really hear fully, because they're very attached to a lot of things having to do with the physical. And that maxim is care for and activate the physical body, because you will need it in this task. It is not indispensable. It is indispensable. It is not dispensable, and it is not something that should be taken lightly or for granted or basically abused. And so many people, even within the freedom movement, are not taking that to heart. And they are abusive toward their own vessel, their own vehicle, and they're not really doing the things that they need to keep the physical vehicle in shape and in condition to do this type of work. The mind and the body are intricately interconnected, really can never be separated. And we have to understand that as the body goes, the mind goes. So I've put out a lot of information on nutrition and, study martial arts and, try to be as active as possible. And it's another one that is sort of unpopular within the freedom community. In general, I think the occult is unpopular within the freedom community. A lot of people don't understand how indispensable the understanding of the occult knowledge and the occult world is. They look at it as just like any other religion. And again, I would absolutely argue that is religion's purpose. Religion's long-term goal and purpose is to obfuscate real spiritual knowledge, real morality, real right behavior. So that's why I consider myself neither an atheist nor a religionist. I consider myself a studier of the occult and the knowledge that it contains. And I consider myself a de-occultist, one who is attempting to take the knowledge of the occult world and unhide it and bring it out into the population for all to see and hear so that we can level the playing field of knowledge, because that is how the social engineers control people. They use knowledge as a weapon against the ignorant. They are creating a power differential with the hidden knowledge that they know and hold close to their chest. And they don't want other people understanding that knowledge, because when you understand that information, what it contains regarding our own psychology and the laws of nature that are operating all around us, one who truly knows those things will not want to be a slave anymore, and certainly will not be easily controlled or mentally manipulated. So that's the goal of all of my work. And, in general, I hope that I've helped to share some of those basic principles and my motivations with your viewing audience.
Well, I'm going to tell you now. Before this video started, I was discussing my new Archaix Underground. It's a platform. It's wildly successful. I had no idea I was going to have this high participation so fast, and I had an idea. I says I need to add a page in there because we have 30 pages in there. Each page allows us to do all kinds of things. Well, I need to add a page. I need to have like I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but it's going to be like a Hall of Fame. And you're going to go in it. Michael Tessarion is going to go in it. David Icke's going to go in it. People who have been in the field for a long time, whether we agree on everything or not, it doesn't even matter. It's the very fact that we're passionate about what we believe in, that we've taken hits believing it and putting that information. So you're going to go in that, and under each person's section, my community is going to vote. I know they're going to vote for you, but as to who goes in there, not anybody can just be in there. These are people who are doing the work, people that we have come to trust. And I think I'm going to call it, I don't know, maybe Truther Hall of Fame. I really don't like the word Truther, but I'll come up with something. But something that my community is really good at coming up with the titles. But we're gonna add that today and put you in there. And in those sections, we're gonna have like you have this shadow work seminar coming up. The links for that will be there in there too. We'll put people's work, their links and all their contact and information there. But I want to congratulate you on something that you do not know.
Okay.
You have no idea that, and I'm all about allowing the oversoul to do things for me, because it always ends up being better than me trying to orchestrate it. But you are officially the Archaix 1000th video.
Wow.
So you are
it's awesome.
you have today, as soon as this video went live, we went from 999 videos to 1,000. You are awesome. The official 1,000th video of Archaix.
Very cool. Very cool. And your project sounds wonderful with, a truther or influencer Hall of Fame, whatever you end up calling it. I think that's a great idea. I'll definitely have to check out Archaix Underground. I have not checked it out yet, but I would absolutely love to.
Yeah, well, I'll just send you the link. I'll send you the link as soon as the video's over.
Great.
Yeah, it's like 7-day free trial. You can get in there and see all the features. It's I can't even believe in 72 hours we already got like 50,000 comments, posts, memes, videos, people posting everything in there. Nice. It's just like Telegram, Twitter, and Facebook all combined into one. It's badass.
We do have to attempt to develop a community type aspect. I just attended a phenomenal event called Sound Path to Freedom this past weekend here in Pennsylvania. It brought so many members of the community, of this type of community, together in person, that it's like I'm still coming down from it. It's like you get that rush of being around such conscious people, everybody involved. And, it came together really wonderfully. It was a music event, all conscious music, live in person. I saw some incredible artists who just putting out incredible talent out there.
Yeah.
And just that's the way
Alphabetic
to
does
do
the
it.
same thing. Alphabetic, Mike and Bear, Mike and Lando,
Hmm.
they do the music festival out there on the West Coast.
It's a good way to put the message out there, because people resonate with it. They feel good. And we got to all gather together, meet each other, network a little bit. And like I said, it's like we definitely need communal aspects to this work like that. So it was a nice thing to see. Good to hearing that you're doing, good to hear that you're doing communal aspects of your work as well.
Yeah, man. This has been a great chat, great talk. And next time I'm on the East Coast, I'm probably going to drop you an email. I drink Modelo, just so
Okay.
you know, just so you'll know. Yeah, it's been a great. We ought to set something up where Mike and Truth Warrior and the four of us just have a freestyle chat, talk about why the world is the way it is, whatever. Michael
Sounds good.
Desarion, Truth Warrior. I can't remember what's Truth Warrior's name. I cannot remember. I've talked to him. I've had one show with him before. He's been on my show.
I do
He's
I do know the gentleman you're talking about.
Yes,
His
he's
name is
real
just
he's a
escaping me.
good communicator. He's a good communicator. He's really charismatic.
Yes.
I know Michael loves him. They do a lot
Hey,
of work.
if
They
if
do a lot
they
of work
if
together.
they'd have us, I'd absolutely agree to participate in something
Yeah,
like that. No doubt about it. I'm always up for something like that. So, yeah, I would just
David. That's his name, David. That's right.
yes.
So
Um, I
that'll work.
would wrap up with just telling people if they want to learn more about my work that I've been doing over the past 2 decades, and maybe take a look at how to become the true media seminar or my upcoming shadow work seminar. You can go to my main website, whatonearthishappening.com, and I always recommend to people go through all my podcasts and videos, but go through my podcasts in order. That's how the worldview emerges. The worldview healing actually emerges if you take my podcasts in order from number one forward at your own pace. I also have One Great Work Network, which features tons of phenomenal content creators. And I'd like to offer, Jason, to you, if you would like to be onboarded onto One Great Work Network, let's definitely talk about that because I would absolutely love to have you on there as well.
Awesome, excellent. Yeah, all the links for everything he just mentioned, they're in the description box already, so you don't have to search for them. They're already there. And I know throughout this entire presentation, I got good moderators. They've been posting the links as we talk about them.
Great.
So they're
So,
awesome.
Jason, thank you so much for the invite. I think it went tremendously well. I think that would be a nice place to leave it for today. And if you do want to put something together like that roundtable discussion that you suggested, I'm absolutely in on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on it. All I gotta do is talk to Big John. He'll reach out and ask everybody.
Cool. Sounds great.
All right, Mark. I will talk to you later, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Take care.
That's a great guy. Thank you guys for blowing up my emails. He was one of the first ones we asked. Let's see. You can check out Mark Passio's all the projects that he's involved in and his YouTube channel, his websites. All the links are in the description box. We'll be adding him. He'll be one of the first ones we'll add into the Hall of Fame on Archaix Underground today. I do have maybe 2 or 3 other spaces I'll be adding. I mean, you guys have been giving me some fantastic ideas. I only started with 12. I only had 12 ideas, audio files and video and all that. As a matter of fact, we're going to look at it right now. I love you guys. I'm about to go get something to eat. This was a great 1000th video for our Archaix. I'm pretty happy about it. Love you guys, and I'll holler at you later. We're going to go ahead and check out Archaix Underground one more time. If I can find it. Welcome to the new social media for the freethinker, the platform for those who do not identify with the collective, Archaix Underground. Explore the 30-plus galleries and spaces and interact with kindred souls all over the world, some in your own community. Meet others in Errant's chat underground. See or report what's happening in your part of the world. Find others that are close to you. See services and advertise your own in Errant's personals. Chat with others and share paranormal experiences. Review the massive posts on deep and revealing movies and music that drop real secrets about our world, and look at the health and wellness posts for tips and helps on the human body. You will find hilarious and thought-provoking stuff in meme warfare. Look over and even contribute to the 2026 Isometric Analysis Project and check out the tips and post-reset pantry and survival tips. Some of you will want to join the Archaix Sentinels as we take deep dives into other content creators' paywalls and search for evidence of integrity or grifters lifting others' content. Explore the audio files of Archaix videos and watch the library of Archaix videos that are not on YouTube. Look over and download the fascinating old books of the Underground Vault Library, or dive in and read the hundreds of articles, posts, and transcripts composed in my decades of research. Review the detailed Archaix charts separated by topics easily followed, and read and contribute to the massive library of powerful quotes. You can read and post your own findings on the years 1901, 1902, and 1903 as we build the database, or look over the post in Flat Plane Examine on toroidal mechanics and simulation theory models of the world. Laugh and even contribute to lifestyles of the grifting and infamous, and post your questions that you want me to answer in live videos on YouTube. Get help with all things Archaix in the admin chat, and look over and post your own arts and crafts and talents. Look over the immense data on the Great Pyramid and Chief Cornerstone research, and review book recommendations about other errants, and even post your own. Check out out-of-place artifacts and mysterious history for intriguing facts about our history and world. And in Immortal Methods, see the techniques, affirmations, and practices that have worked for others in their manifestations of their wants. New spaces will be added, one being on the facts of Christianity very soon. Join us in this explosive community of souls, all sharing this experience.